everyone was like, oh, football clubs and no income, no this, no whatever. But everyone forgot that, okay, you got a grace period to pay your PAYE, which means you had like 3-4 months. You didn't have to pay it. That's a massive amount of your wage bill. That's almost like 45% of your wage bill that you don't have to pay for a period of time. You got dispensation on your VAT. So your VAT's every quarter. So say your VAT in June or whenever it is, July, was like 200 grand. You know, you were forgiven till the following quarter. So you were putting things down the road. For the clever clubs who did deals with their players, you deferred wages. You then had a lot of sensible clubs. I call them sensible, and we're naive because we didn't furlough players because we believed the EFL when they kept telling us that we would get back to playing. So you had lots of clubs out there, let's say Accrington and Stanley or Rochdale, who basically furloughed players. Now, I'm not sure if they paid the difference. If you furloughed and got your $2.5 grand a month, and the player was on $4 grand, we as a club, when we eventually furloughed, we paid the difference. If you didn't pay the difference, I think contractually the player could walk. That's why, you know, we have assets.
You got to settle your football.
You got to be careful. So we have a lot of assets. Peterborough's different from most clubs. We went into lockdown with players worth millions and millions. So you suddenly play furlough games or contract law, and you've got high value assets worth millions. You can walk. So we pay the difference. You're continuing
to invest in your assets, basically.
Of course we do. So a lot of clubs suddenly didn't have wages to pay. They didn't have PAYE to pay. They didn't have VAT to pay. I would assume if they have rent bills, they probably deferred them. So there's like a 5-month deferment. And I always said this was down the road for the issues. And I always said this would happen in July, August, September. And we've done our cash flow. And as it happens, August, September and October are horrific. Of course they're horrific because you've all the back bills of we owe player wages, we owe the PAYE, we owe the VAT. The EFL didn't do a deal with the government on giving us more time, which surprised me. Because we're one of the biggest industries for income produced for the taxman. So why would you want to put pressure on that industry? You'd want to help them. So we've got a lot of bills to pay, which we'll pay, me and my partners, and the club will. Some clubs might have a problem with that if their bills are bigger. And this is why I said that bailout I've been screaming about for months, it needed to be in place for the end of July. And I don't know where it is. I've been saying it every time, talking, and we've got to wait till the Premier League finish, and but there needs to be a bailout and help.
So it's coming. The problems are coming.
It's coming. Now, some clubs maybe not so much because a lot of lower league football clubs do 12-month contracts or multiplicity contracts where you have players for 6 months. And those were the clubs who basically wanted a vote to stop playing because they knew they were going into a summer with no players. So pick a club in League One. They have a squad of 22 players. 6 are on loan from the Premier League. They've gone back. Premier League's probably forgiven the loan wages, so they don't have that bill. The other 16 players, probably 5 of them are contracted for year 2. The other 10 or 11 have an option. Club didn't take up the option. So you got these clubs going into the summer who don't have any football players.
They'll probably bring them back if they have once football resumes, but they're not carrying the contract.
Or they'll sign new players, but they're not carrying the contracts. You just said it there. You've hit the nail on the head. We were carrying 24 contracts because we do it differently. And we try and do it properly, but we're the ones punished for doing it properly. These clubs basically don't have any players. So your players are your main expense. Now, put in with that, and this is where I was arguing about the football deals. You get about $1.5 million in football money, solidarity, TV money, everything. So they've still got that revenue. They've still got other bits and pieces, revenue, commercial, sponsorship, who are still paying. So these clubs, these lower league clubs, they were probably getting a surplus of profit. So they weren't really in trouble. And if they haven't got big deferment bills in August, they'll be fine. Now, the bigger clubs might have a bigger problem, like a Peterborough, whose budget might have an excess of 3 million or whatever that the owners have to cover. Times like this, that excess becomes bigger. But luckily, I've got good partners, so there's no issue with that, and we run a really, really good ship. And we've had people do deals, we've had people defer, we've had a really good council that help. You know, we've got a lot of things.
And you've got assets if it comes to it.
And we've never worried. We've got an asset right now that every club in the country is falling over trying to buy.